Welcome on into a mailbag video here on the Cleveland Browns Report. Today's episode was filmed during our live show, which airs every Tuesday at 5 p.m. First question comes in from a longtime viewer, Christopher Stofira. Is there a player in the draft to move up and get? So I think Christopher's asking if there's a player in this draft worthy of trading up to get. The Browns are picking at 54. They're the last team to pick. Very difficult to say right now who could be slipping from, like, say, the projected 30-ish pick range to the 40-ish pick range where the Browns would have the means to go up and get. There's a lot of great players that I would love to see the Browns move up and get if they truly did slip. If I'm tackling a position group, I know there has been a lot of investment made in this spot, but defensive tackle, because the investments have all been one-year contracts outside of Shelby Harris. And even that's kind of structured like a one-year contract. So if Johnny Newton, the defensive tackle from Illinois, I thought he had first-round talent written all over him, but now I'm seeing some mocks not include him. If he were to slip in the draft because teams were just not valuing interior defensive linemen well, Andrew Berry hasn't had a great track record of drafting defensive tackles. Too early to say on Siaki Ika, but, man, the signings of Maurice Hurst, Shelby Harris, and Quentin Jefferson, they definitely don't bode well for Ika having a big role in 2024. So I wouldn't mind drafting or moving up to get like a Jason Newton, trying to find some young and four-year talent at the defensive tackle position. Joshua Miller, are we now in best player available mode for the draft? Similar to last year, Josh, the Browns go into the draft with every need checked. Like, they don't have a spot on their roster that they need to fulfill in the draft. There is not a vacant starting role on this team outside of maybe linebacker. I don't think Devin Bush should just be handed the job. So is there a best player available mode? I would say yes. And that's kind of been Andrew Berry's, MO. Do they need a wide receiver when they got Cedric Tillman? Not necessarily. Like, go back to last year. Vibes were very high on DPJ, and they traded for Elijah Moore. Go back the season prior. Do they need Martin Emerson? They just took Greg Newsome in the first round the year before, and they have Denzel Ward. What would they need Martin Emerson for? So he's always gone in best player available mode. Would not surprise me if he does that again, and I just hope that it happens to coincide at linebacker. Cool guy called Zone. Do you think Andrew Berry would trade up in the draft to secure Edgerrin Cooper? There might be teams that need linebacker, and they select him. I mean, Andrew Berry doesn't have a ton to work with when it comes to resources and just overall currency to spend to move up, right? He's got his he's got his second, and he's got a third. Give away future draft picks, but honestly, it's not like this year's draft class is one of the better ones we've seen. And that is kind of the word on the street. So I don't know if Andrew Berry is going to want to give up future draft picks for a draft this year. He doesn't think it's all that great of a draft, right? We're not even seeing one off-ball linebacker projected to go round one. So as much as I like Edgerrin Cooper, I don't think that we're going to see him aggressively try and trade up if he starts to slip a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if he does want to go linebacker, if he maybe sits and waits and sees if Junior Colson from Michigan, Cooper, Peyton Wilson out of NC State, could he just wait and see which of those three guys falls to him at 54 and not give up future draft picks? You can't quite rule anything out with Andrew Berry, but we haven't really seen him move up a lot in the draft, mostly back. Lil Beam, next one. Name 3 Browns really fighting for their jobs. Ooh, I like this question, Lil Beam. All right, let me pull up the depth chart in front of me so I have all the names on my eyesight. Fighting for their job. Let's go with Let's start with Jed Wills a little bit from a long-term standpoint. Will he get a second contract with this team? That seems like a guy who needs to really show it and prove it this year. That's one right there. Devin Bush for sure. He's the bottom of the totem pole for all 3 linebackers. Got the smallest contract between him and Jordan Hicks. Devin Bush is absolutely fighting for a starting job because there will be competition brought in for that job right there. One other guy I would say, Jerome Ford. Can he hold on to the RB1 spot until Nick Chubb returns and basically be the RB2 once he does return? Or is Deontay Foreman going to take over that role and be this team's leading back until Nick Chubb returns. I would bump Jerome Ford to the top of my list. So those are 3 guys right there that I think are fighting for their job. Really good question, though, Lil B. All right, before we get to the other questions on today's show, I do want to spend just 60 seconds telling you guys about our sponsor today, which is Game Time, because there is nothing more frustrating than spending time searching for the best ticket prices, which is why you should give Game Time a shot. They have flash deals, zone deals, and the lowest price guarantee. So if you're trying to go see a Cavs game, a Guardians game, a concert, or any other sporting event in your local area, download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. I love that Game Time, by the way, gives you a bird's eye view of your seat before you purchase your tickets, so there are no surprises when you show up. Plus, we all know hidden fees suck, but Game Time gives you an all-in price option, so you really know how much the tickets are going to cost. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT, C-H-A-T, SPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Jeremy Stallman with a $24 super chat. Clap it up for Jeremy in the chat right now. Let's send good vibes to Nick Chubb. Let's build this empire, the doghouse. Keep up the great work. Let's go Browns. Everyone spam Nick Chubb or spam 24 in the comment section right now as he's on what appears to be a really good path on his recovery to the field. Brad with the $10 super chat. I want a dome. It's cold AF here. What do I think of the hip drop tackle ban? So I've already kind of stated my dome statement or stance, if you will. I was anti-dome, pro-outdoor AFC North football, like football should be played, up until the Saints game. And at that moment, I realized there's no advantage over these Southern teams because they just came to Cleveland and beat the Browns in a playoff game, essentially. And we're just going to sit out here in the cold for no good reason as a result. Like, I bought into the mentality of, like, you're going to come up north, you're going to play us in your candy-ass uniforms, Miami, New Orleans, Atlanta. Like, you guys are going to freeze to death up here. And then I've watched those teams come up to Cleveland and win in those conditions. So now we're all just cold and losing. So what's the point? Hip drop tackle, I just don't see a way this gets properly officiated, and it just has disaster written all over it. But when it comes to a dome, what are your thoughts? Do you want to play in a dome? Yes or no? What I'm not going to say for the pro-dome side is everyone's always so quick to say, and you get Final Fours, and a Super Bowl, and sure, but are the Vikings and their new stadium hosting a Super Bowl anytime soon? Is the NCAA Final Four going to go back there anytime soon? You get it like once, I feel like, if you're a northern city that's in a dome. Let's not act like you are permanently included in the rotation of those marquee sports events. If it's worth it one time, okay, but I doubt it. Lil B. Should the Browns go after Teair Tart? So he was with the Titans, played under Jim Schwartz. He was released mid-season. It seemed like there was some drama there. Never really got to the bottom of it. Went to the Texans. He actually played pretty well for Houston. I think Cleveland's pretty good at defensive tackle, though. They've made a bunch of signings at this position, right? Shelby Harris, Quentin Jefferson. Teair Tart's still a free agent, too. I almost feel like he got signed, but maybe I'm misremembering. Did he go back to the Texans? He's a free agent? Okay. Regardless, they've already signed 3 defensive tackles in Hurst, Harris, and Jefferson. I'm feeling like Andrew Berry feels confident at that spot. Ray Bidding, is Jakeem Grant still with the Browns? No, he is not. If you remember, he signed a 3-year contract initially. Then he popped his Achilles. And then going into the next year, they reworked his deal, a.k.a. took a year off of it and put more money into 2023. And that's when he suffered his knee injury. So, no, Jakeem Grant is not with the Browns. He is a free agent. But maybe with the new kickoff change, like the new kickoff rules, the Browns will try to bring back a guy like Jakeem Grant who offers a lot of special teams upside. And now that you're going to see a major increase in kick returns, his value just went way up if he still has some good football left in him after 2 really bad back-to-back injuries. Tim Green, what's going on, dude? can you see the Browns drafting a running back in rounds 3 or 5? Yeah, I definitely could. Um, who? That's a different question, right? I'm gonna look at like the big board here for what I got for running backs in my notes. But like, let's start with round 3. I don't think a guy like Jonathan Brooks will be there. He kind of has round 2 written all over him. Maybe Blake Corum. He's got a lot of wear and tear. He even got a knee surgery in college, which Chubb did as well. But I feel like Chubb was a lot better at Georgia than Blake Corum was at Michigan. Blake Corum just kind of gives me Wisconsin running back vibes of Monty Ball, a bazillion touchdowns, great offensive line. Didn't necessarily translate super well to the NFL. Braylon Allen, I'm not really crazy about him, honestly. Bucky Irving, I'm not super high on. I like Jalen Wright, and I like Trey Benson. So I would say Jalen Wright and Trey Benson would be my top 2 running back targets. I think both could go anywhere from round 3 all the way to round 5. Last question coming in from Christopher. Do you see the Browns going tight end round 3, 85, and draft someone like Cade Stover, or do you think they won't draft a tight end? Really good question. I do feel like tight end could be a spot they land on, given the lack of depth at that position, especially because Akins is entering the last year of his contract. Ricci's the 3rd tight end. He's on a 1-year deal. Specific to Cade Stover from Ohio State, I can't really say confidently one way or another. I wouldn't dislike that pick, but I don't know if the Browns are circling him or by any stretch. I could see tight end being a sneaky high position they target in this year's draft. It's a solid tight end draft, but honestly, it's not that great. Like last year, you had some really good. Well, you got Brock Bowers, and then after that, there's kind of a good Sanders from Texas, but it's not, I think, as good as we've seen previous tight end drafts. You just got a really good player at the top with Brock Bowers, and after that, you've got some average players to be nice. All right, Christopher, I do appreciate the question, though. Trizzy Trace, pick a card.
I'm going to roll with the 9 of spades.
9 of spades, I like it. I'm going to go with the Jack of Diamonds.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too, actually. You ready?
Let's see it.
Jack of Clubs.
Ugh.
Jack of Clubs. Clubs. All right. Well, that would do it for us on today's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I always appreciate those of you that take time out of your day, as always, to watch our content. If you're still watching right now, scroll on down and drop a CLE. You know I love to know who the end of the video squad is.